Hi everyone. Now, one of the main reasons I switched completely over to Opusmodus is the ability to create automation. Especially for electronic music, automation is essential because we are often working with very repetitive loops, and the movement all comes from the sounds. And after a while of working with drawing automation, you get pretty tired of that. And in Opusmodus, we can actually create shapes and then use that in a much more convenient way, send it to our DAW, record it, and then you're good to go. Now, recently a new function was added which makes this even easier, which is called vector scale. And this function allows you to scale the shape of the modulation to the full range of your composition. So for example, if you have something like this sine wave, you can make it so that it spans the whole composition, spans a couple of bars, etc. Now, before I go into further detail, I will play the composition. I will meanwhile record in Logic so that you can see the automation being recorded. And I will switch to TouchDesigner, where I have an animation so that you can see how this moves based on the automation itself. In case you're unfamiliar with this, TouchDesigner is it's specifically designed for automation, but we can take MIDI inputs as well as OSC, and we can use that to control part of our animation network. So that being said, let's start recording in Logic, and then we play our composition, and we can see what's happening in both TouchDesigner and Logic. And after that, we go into some more detail. All right, so there we have it. We have all our MIDI parts recorded. All the automation is in there with a very high resolution. You could see that I'm creating some random shapes. I'm creating some exponential shape right here. We have many more. I actually started out with a lot more automation, but I wanted to simplify it a little bit for the sake of this video. So let's take a look at what's happening. This is our score, of course. We see some of the graphs popping up as we evaluate. So basically what I have here is a chord progression, a fairly simple progression. We can audition it. And then I create a list of lengths using the quick length function. Very convenient to quickly come up with different rhythms. I'm setting that to my 6/4 time signature. Then I'm using the chordize list, which is a function that creates chords out of single notes. And then here in the make OMN function, we are creating basically random integers and to create our melody. And later we map that to a harmonic path, one of my favorite functions, as it allows you to give a path, in my case the chords, and it will map the random melody that you created to those chords. And then after that, I'm assembling all of this, and then I'm using the dictum. Now, the dictum is very useful when you want to, for example, remove events, or you want to substitute a bar for another one. It allows you to change again the random output of the previous functions and to make some decisions yourself. And it can really do a lot of things. This is one that it takes some studying, but once you get handy with it, and there's many examples here in the documentation, you can really control everything in your music again. So we have that, and then we get to the modulation shapes. So here we have an exponential kind of shape. We have another random kind of vector here. I'm not using all of these in the composition. We have these sine waves. This is a sine wave modulated by another sine wave. I've showed this in an earlier video. And then here we use this vector scale, and this takes the CC num value, which is basically the span multiplied by the resolution that you want to use for your automation. And with this, we make sure that our shapes are stretched or made more compact based on the length of your composition, so they will always be exactly in time. Before that, before we had this function, we could also do that, but we had to use a little bit more math. Then I'm using some envelopes right here, which I'm multiplying, and I also pass those to the vector scale function to get this sort of rising envelope, which happens throughout the length of the composition. And then we just go into a score where we send these values. Now then, over to the logic side, here we can see those shapes. You can see the same shape here being recorded. I mapped that to my filter cutoff in Serum, and I mapped this one, which is CC number 77, to slowly decrease the amount of the effects. Actually, it will increase the delay and increase the reverb. It will decrease the chorus effect so that the sound gets a little bit less chorusy towards the end of the composition. And I'm also using CC 79, which I use to control this slider in Guitar Rig, so that at the end we get this sort of granular kind of sound that you heard. It sort of ends in an effect, a little bit more electronic. So that's happening here. You can see all those curves here. Of course, you can change them. Of course, you can add to them. This is mainly what I want to show in this, what I wanted to show in this video. But then, just for fun, let's quickly go over to TouchDesigner. This was our animation. I was controlling the camera position of it with the CC values, and it's also being modulated by an LFO. And here I take a note input. It takes note number 44, which is actually 43, which is the note G. So every time the note G happens in the piece, the animation restarts. And then I'm using the other values to control, for example, the length of these lines that we see right here. If we evaluate the whole thing again, see that the lines, they become longer as the piece progresses. So some really cool stuff. I'm really having fun with this. It's all just a little bit of Opusmodus stuff, and you can do so much already with it. So yeah, check out the vector scale function and perhaps some of the other things you picked up from this. Thank you, and see you in the next video.